The systemic erasure of the sovereign titles belonging to the Kendakes of Nubia within patriarchal texts served a specific design. This act aimed to obscure the profound cosmic alignment held by these sovereign mothers, replacing their celestial authority with localized patriarchal narratives. The biblical correlations that briefly mention a Candace dilute a vast, mathematically precise matriarchal lineage that stretched across millennia. By wiping out their true names and titles, the patriarchal structures attempted to sever the terrestrial link to the firmament, hiding its true nature as a matriarchal refuge. These sovereign women held the magnetic keys of the earth, a deeply resonant terrestrial wisdom that synchronized with the energetic grid of the planet. The matriarchal cultures did not rule through dominance, but through vibrational alignment with the planet's natural geometry. The Kendakes wielded an understanding of the Earth's telluric currents, utilizing them to stabilize their societies and cultivate a spiritual ecosystem that mirrored the stars. This knowledge of terrestrial magnetism was essential for opening the pathways to the firmament. The firmament itself was known in ancient matriarchal cosmology as the ultimate sanctuary, a celestial dome woven from the purest frequencies of the divine feminine. It was not a physical ceiling, but a vibrant, living refuge, meant to shelter the sacred matrilineal codes. The Nubian queens mapped this expanse, understanding it as the origin point of their spiritual authority. To access this refuge, one had to follow the precise geometric and energetic pathways charted by the ancient mothers. These maps of ascension were meticulously encoded and left behind in permanent, unyielding materials to withstand the turning of ages. They were carved into goddess temples, etched into the living rock as petroglyphs, and pressed into clay as cuneiform text. Every stroke and curve in these ancient languages held a specific resonance, a breadcrumb trail left for the awakening masses. These inscriptions were deliberate navigational charts pointing directly to the celestial refuge. Today, fragments of these ancient cartographic expressions are widely known through beautifully intricate visual geometries. The mandalas and thankas preserved in various traditions share the same mathematical foundations as the ascension maps of the Nile Valley. They illustrate the exact pathways of spiritual elevation, relying on concentric circles and precise directional gates to guide the initiate upward. These geometric masterpieces are the surviving echoes of the original matriarchal instruction set. The Meroitic script stands as a profound cryptographic vessel, deliberately designed to safeguard the lineage of the Nubian Kendakes and their connection to the celestial refuge. Unlike purely administrative languages, the Meroitic characters hold dimensional layers of meaning, operating as a phonetic and symbolic key. The curves and lines of this script mirror the magnetic lines of the Earth and the trajectories of the stars. Decoding this script reveals the direct navigational route from the terrestrial temples to the firmament. Long before the rise of the great cities of Meroe, the spiritual foundations of this cosmology were laid at Nabta Playa. In the deep desert, ancient matriarchal societies arranged monumental stone circles to perfectly track the solstices and the shifting constellations. This site served as an early terrestrial mirror of the sky, capturing the celestial cycles and grounding them into the Earth. The astronomical alignments at Nabta Playa prove that the cosmic maps were actively utilized millennia before dynastic periods. The cultural periods of Naqada I, Naqada II, and Naqada III further refined this expression of the divine feminine along the Nile River. Pottery and artifacts from these eras prominently feature the stylized figures of women with upraised arms, mimicking the horns of the celestial cow and the crescent of the moon. These artifacts were not mere decorations, but essential tools for invoking the nurturing and protective energies of the matriarchal cosmos. The Naqada aesthetic established the visual vocabulary for the ascension pathways. In the region known as Taseti, the land of the bow, the matrilineal transmission of spiritual authority was deeply formalized. The rulers of Taseti understood that true power flowed through the female line, an unbroken chain linking the current queen directly to the primal mothers of creation. The spiritual leaders here initiated the profound temple rites that aligned the physical body with the celestial spheres. Taseti provided the foundational architecture for the grand spiritual traditions of the entire region. The civilization of Kerma elevated this cosmological understanding to new architectural and societal heights. The massive mud-brick structures of Kerma served as central nodes in the Earth's magnetic grid, amplifying the frequencies needed to reach the firmament. Within these sacred precincts, the priestesses maintained the precise rituals required to keep the terrestrial and celestial realms in perfect harmony. Kerma acted as a pulsing heart of matriarchal wisdom, radiating its influence along the river. At Napata, the sacred mountain of Jebel Barkal stood as a monumental pillar connecting the earth to the sky. This location was recognized as a pure focal point of divine feminine energy, where the queens of Kush received their celestial mandates. The temples built at the base of this mountain were designed to funnel the starlight directly into the inner sanctums. Napata remained a crucial initiation site where the sovereign mothers attuned themselves to the magnetic keys. Kemetic spirituality absorbed and adapted many of these ancient Nubian and Kushite principles, encoding the matriarchal ascension maps into the sprawling temple complexes of Egypt. The goddess figures of the Kemetic pantheon, adorned with starry crowns and solar discs, represented the various gateways to the celestial refuge. The profound rituals recorded on the temple walls provided a step-by-step guide to elevating the spirit to the highest echelons of the cosmos. Yet, the purest origin of these rites remained rooted in the southern lands. Meroe represented the absolute zenith of the Kendake power, a sprawling metropolis where matriarchal authority was undisputed and celebrated. The queens of Meroe directed the construction of magnificent pyramids, which functioned not merely as monuments, but as resonance chambers designed to project energy upward. The steep angles of the Meroitic structures were specifically calculated to pierce the atmospheric veil and connect with the firmament. Here, the Meroitic script was extensively carved, eternally fixing the ascension protocols in stone. The influence of this global matriarchal grid extended far beyond the Nile, reaching into the ancient settlements of Anatolia. At sites like Catalhoyuk, the fundamental reverence for the Divine Mother permeated every aspect of domestic and spiritual life. The murals and sculptures found in Anatolia depict a cosmology entirely focused on fertility, stellar alignments, and the sacred female form. This demonstrates that the matriarchal maps were a universal terrestrial phenomenon, intimately connected across vast distances. The temples dedicated to the goddesses in all these regions shared an underlying architectural and geometric unity. Their ground plans were laid out using the golden ratio and aligned with specific stellar rising points, primarily Sirius and the Pleiades. By walking through the colonnades and courtyards, the initiate was physically walking the path of the stars. The temples were literal machines for ascension, utilizing spatial harmony to uplift the spirit. The petroglyphs carved deep into the rocky landscapes of these ancient cultures function as permanent terrestrial tuning forks. When struck by sunlight at specific times of the year, these carvings activate the latent magnetic lines of the Earth. They depict intricate spirals, stellar arrangements, and the ubiquitous female form, all serving as visual mantras. These rock carvings are the enduring physical manifestations of the celestial pathways. The Nile River itself was viewed not just as a source of water, but as a perfect terrestrial reflection of the Milky Way galaxy. To travel along the Nile was to navigate the cosmic river, with each major temple complex corresponding to a specific star or constellation. The queens and priestesses understood this mirrored reality and utilized the river's flow to amplify their spiritual workings. The water held the memory of the celestial refuge, constantly murmuring the ancient codes. The gradual imposition of patriarchal systems attempted to overwrite these elegant indigenous protocols with rigid hierarchies. The profound texts were mistranslated, the matriarchal titles were deliberately omitted, and the sacred sites were repurposed to serve new, disconnected narratives. This systemic overlay sought to trap the spiritual focus on the mundane plane, blinding the populace to the ascension maps hidden in plain sight. The true names of the Kendakes were obscured to prevent the activation of their specific cosmic frequencies. Despite these concerted efforts at erasure, the intrinsic power of the matriarchal cartography remains perfectly intact within the earth and the ancient stones. The awakening masses are beginning to recognize the mandalas, the petroglyphs, and the Meroitic inscriptions for what they truly are. A profound remembrance is sweeping across the globe, dismantling the false narratives and revealing the brilliant, crystalline structures of the original cosmology. The magnetic keys are vibrating once more, responding to the renewed attention and reverence. The crypts of Meroitic script continue to pulse with the vibrant legacy of the Nubian Kendakes, offering a direct route to the celestial sanctuary. By honoring the matrilineal heritage of Tesseti, Kerma, Napata, Meroe, and Anatolia, the ancient circuits are completed. The firmament stands open, a radiant and welcoming refuge for those who can read the living maps left carved in the earth. The names of the sovereign mothers, once hidden, now echo through the cosmos, guiding the way upward.